brings out all the greats. Brad Hopkins is no exception to that, and he's right here on the Titans training camp report, fueled by Gatorade. B-Hop, it's always good to see you.
Amie, thanks for having me.
I want to ask you about these practices. What has surprised you the most about this Titans team that you've seen so far to this point?
I'd probably say the professionalism. I think that's the atmosphere that Mike Vrabel has tried to create ever since he got here. And to see how these guys work well in an orderly fashion, efficiently, kind of seems like an upbringing that he's used to. And it breeds success, and I would hope that some of what he has and experienced in the past will kind of rub off on our Titans.
Mike Vrabel is a first-time head coach, and that can be successful in this league. We've seen it happen before. What does he need to do to be successful in his first year as a head coach?
Trust his hires. Trust the people he's put in certain situations to do their job. He being a defensive mind, he would hope that Matt LaFleur is going to do his job and help develop his quarterback, help develop his offense. Then that way he can do the things that he's departmentally responsible for doing, overseeing the whole management of the team, making sure defensively his imprint is still there, those kind of things. But at least when you make the right hires, when you trust the people who you have around you, then it makes it easier to do your job.
We started off training camp with some big news. Left tackle Taylor Lajuan signing a large contract that's going to keep him a Titan for a while. From one left tackle to another, how good of an investment did this Titans team make in Taylor Lajuan?
It starts by having the foundation of your offensive line in place, by getting the bookends taken care of, by getting some of the interior guys taken care of. You've solidified that cohesion, which has to take place. And we keep saying cohesion all the time, Amie. Well, it's so apparent when you're talking about 5 guys that have to play almost like ballerinas in unison with one another. Mixing and matching those situations, it's not good for the guys. They need as much repetition together as possible. And when you know Taylor's going to be here for at least 5 more years, when Jack comes up, I'm sure that they're going to extend the same kind of situation to him, making sure that you have at least your quarterback protected and can control the ground attack by getting those big boys up front signed. That's imperative.
I really like hearing the big guys up front described as ballerinas. I think that's very pretty and lovely.
I got that from Bruce Matthews, because our old line coach Bob Young we used to have back in the day. He used to say, Bruce, that boy, he's so beautiful. It's like a ballerina out there, and you couldn't say anything because Bruce was such a tremendous athlete, regardless of his size, that he could just get the job done. He wasn't a technician like his counterpart, Mike Munchak. That dude right there was about footwork, about spacing, hand placement, all that stuff.
Speaking of the guys in the trenches, the Titans defensive line is kind of a veteran unit on this team. How beneficial is that to the entire Titans defense?
That's where it starts. I mean, being able to get after the quarterback is imperative for a defense. You can't give a guy back there, especially a good guy back there, time. Speeding up the clock, making him uncomfortable is the job of those big boys up front, the front 7 actually. And when you know they're stout, when you know that they are well-versed in what they do, they have low anxiety levels, they're professionals, they're going to be, prepared for that moment. That's a trust factor that you can get after. So those guys can gamble in the back end. You see Logan and Malcolm and those guys, they know that the quarterback is not going to be in a comfortable situation, so they got their eyes peeled to what routes are being run in front of them, how the play develops, and that way they can make plays. But it starts with Derek and Brian and Jarrell being able to get after it and make these dudes really kind of wish they didn't come here.
All right, we've talked about getting after the quarterback. We've talked about defending the quarterback and protecting him. Let's actually talk about him. Marcus Mariota is in his 4th year. What do you need to see out of him to see significant progress in year 4?
I remember at an event where Mike Vrabel was kind of being introduced to the community, I got a chance to talk to Taylor Lajuan for a few minutes, and he just said to me, he said, man, if we can get an offense where they just let him be him, you know what I mean? Then you're going to really see something. And I understood what he was saying, because here's a guy that, while he needed to improve his accuracy in the pocket and going through a progression and the things that all professional quarterbacks have to do, you still can't forget about his one big intangible, and that's his feet. You don't want to live there. You don't want to be RG3. You don't want to be a guy that has inaccuracy issues and basically is forced to run and then puts him in danger where he gets hurt, and then that physical part of his game is the thing that hampers his game. Here's a guy that, can, in combination, be a most dangerous threat. Someone that can get the tough yard because of his unbelievable speed, but is smart enough to not put himself in danger, get out of bounds, get the tough yard, but then also make the plays, keeping the play alive, that inside the pocket he needs to be mobile, but eyes still scanning downfield for those routes that are going to develop. That's the kind of quarterback they want him to be. And I guess designing a system that kind of brings out both of his strengths, that's going to be best for this offense.
The Titans are just days away from their first preseason game. What are reasonable expectations for any NFL team in their first preseason game?
What's preseason? Preseason is in my opinion, to kind of solidify depth. You're not going to put your starters in there for a bunch of time because they know what they're doing. But when those starters sometimes have injuries or they have to go out for a period, you want to know that those guys that are coming in can keep up that workload. And this is the time where you develop that bottom end of your roster, the middle of your roster, for situations like that, because depth is such a crucial element in the league because injuries are such a crucial part of the game itself. So you got to have guys that can play. And this is the time of year when you get to see those guys on the field in live action against an uncommon opponent, you know what I mean, trying to really implement a game plan, stuff like that, and make a roster. So I want to see, you know, obviously a couple of game time situations for our 1s and 2s. Get out. That's what preseason's for. Let that roster develop on the back end, get those young draft picks a chance to get in there and get some real-time action, and then see where this team is come week 1.
Brad Hopkins, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Always good to be on.